is. I don't think anybody's a big fan of it. You know, the school buses, bus stops, kids standing out in the dark, you know, you don't want kids standing on the side of a highway in the dark waiting on a bus.
No, and they don't stand still, so you never know what they're doing.
No. You know, so there could be a time when they move school, the school starts an hour later or whatever, but that affects a whole lot of things with work schedules and babysitting and, you know, I don't know. Upper level problem right there. Had to get out of something that you already started. Anyways.
Time changes like taxes.
Never goes away.
It's just temporary.
Yes, everything temporary. Just you see it. Yeah. All right. Good morning. We're continuing our study of Isaiah. Chuck was out of town this week, and I got a quality audit next weekend. So that's why I'm teaching 2 weeks in a row. He'll teach next week. Next week, Friends Day. They're going to be set up for stuff in the back, but Paul agreed to teach back there as is, so we'll continue to have our regular class. I thought there might be a possibility we have to combine them or something like that, but that's not going to be the case. So we'll probably just, whatever Chuck teaches, and he'll probably just keep on moving. There's my resources. Today I used Bible Gateway, Study Light, I used Kaufman, Barnes Notes. I didn't use Bob Whitten's notes today. Most of this stuff's straightforward. It's a lot of, it's poetic language. Welcome back, Chuck. It's poetic language looking at Christ is really what it is. As we looked at the last couple chapters, the people's sins of the people separated the Jewish nation from God. They got farther and farther apart, up till the time of Christ. It just keeps going that way. Many of the people had lost heart, and they had begun to doubt both the goodness and the power of God. They openly complained that God's hand was shortened so that he could not save, that his ear was dull so that it could not hear. Those are actually taken out of Isaiah 59:1, 50 verse 2. As things got worse, people said he's not interested in us. But it's the people that walked away from God. That's really the key to it. God still had that ability. As we move into the second half of chapter 59, we'll see that. So Isaiah 59 verses 14 through 15. Justice is turned back and righteousness stands far away. For truth has stumbled in the public square. It's not going to be a good morning for me. And uprightness cannot enter. Truth is lacking, and he who departs from evil makes himself a prey. So there's a path to justice and righteousness from where the people are. How far away are they? How far away from justice and righteousness are the Jewish people? It's far enough that they think God's arm can't reach across it. You know, that's pretty far. They've totally lost faith. Yeah, that's it. That's how they're looking at it. God's there to serve us, not us to serve him. And that's exactly it. And they're saying he can't reach across. It's like, well, it's because you moved farther away. How many times have you seen this in your own life? Somebody will walk farther away, and then they'll blame you for not chasing them. Or
do it, you know. He doesn't listen to my prayers. He listened to them. He said no.
He listened to what he said no. Yeah, because some prayers are that way. It's my will, not yours. And you're right. Sometimes it's just how it is. He doesn't answer them all that way. What happens to one who chooses to depart from evil? And that's down in verse 15. Truth is lacking, and he who departs from evil makes himself a prey. So this evil, this injustice, this unrighteousness is everywhere. What happens to the person who decides to change, decides to walk away? They become a target, right? Who are you going to do evil on? Those are probably the people. That's who it is. That's the one. That's who they're going to do evil on. Right? It's the easiest one. They're the ones that buck the system. So they become prey, is really what it says. Picking up in the second half of verse 15, the Lord saw it, and the Lord saw it, and it displeased him that there was no justice. He saw that there was no man, and wondered that there was no one to intercede. Then his own arm brought him salvation, and his righteousness upheld him. God's not blind. He saw this. He saw that. He saw what's going on. How does he feel about it? Not happy. He's probably pretty short selling that. Yeah. It displeased him, is what it is. The text that says in the ESV. Other Bibles probably have different words. He doesn't like it. He's not blind. He sees it. He doesn't like it. So why couldn't you use a leader like Moses? He brought Moses in when he saw stuff he didn't like. When the Hebrews were in captivity in Egypt, he brought Joshua in, well, right after Moses, but to lead the people to the promised land, lead them into the promised land, really. David, why didn't he bring in a prophet or a judge? Why didn't he bring somebody in like this to turn things around? Or why couldn't he? Yeah, you're right. They're so far away and they need a reset. It says he couldn't find, he said he saw there was no man. There's nobody that could have interceded, but he's also tried for centuries with the prophets, one after another after another, and we don't want to hear what you have to say. Tell God to shut up is really what their words were. So there's nobody could have done it. It's too big of a gulf. He would have had to create a Superman at this point. Right. Yeah, it's exactly. They wanted to be in the world. He let them see what the world was like. They wouldn't have taken that word. And even you look at when Christ got there, that's how they treated him. He would get in the way of God serving them, and that's how they treated him. They didn't listen. There were people that did. I mean, don't get us wrong. Don't miss the ones that did. But some of the ones who are part of the evil part of this, the ones that were no justice, that's how it continued to go, even with the Son of God there. The Chaldee version renders this: there was no man who could stand up and pray for them. When it talks about there was no one to intercede. That's a pretty powerful word right there. Somebody who could intercede for a whole nation, somebody who could stand up and bring people back to God. It was very few men that could do that. But you saw that with Moses, David. When you bring it down to a sentence as simple as there's no man who could stand and pray for them, that's pretty rough, isn't it? That's quite a situation that nobody could stand and pray for them. Does it point to how powerful our own prayers are for, beyond somebody that's sick, but prayers for our nation, prayers for peace, prayers for the spiritual healing of our friends and family? It takes somebody to stand and pray for them. The New Bible Commentary says that the word wondered here should be rendered, he was appalled. So, like Paul said, he was unhappy, he didn't like it, he was displeased. He goes a little bit farther, and in verse 16 where he says he wondered that there was no one to intercede, it's really, he was appalled there was no one. God's own people got to the fact that there wasn't anybody who could even just stand up and pray for the people. So appalled is pretty stiff word there. If no man created in the image of God could bring about redemption, what's left? Wasn't anybody they could do, so what's left next? God's going to have to do it himself. He couldn't just use a guy. He's going to have to use, his own arm brought him salvation. His own arm is going to have to extend his salvation, his redemption to his people. And that's really what's going to have to, it's at that point where there's nothing else that can be done. What drives God to this redemption? In the past, he's just washed them away, just paid the fine. You know, I mean, you take the flood, when people got that bad, what he sent the rain and he cleansed the earth. When the Jewish nation got bad, which is quite possibly the same, you know, it's Isaiah, your captivities and stuff, the Assyrians, the Babylonians, he did a cleansing of them that way. But it's time for God to come in as redemption. What drives that? Why didn't he just close it out? The answer is his righteousness. And that's really what it is. The righteousness, that quality of God drives him to see the injustice, to see the problems, to hear the problems, to know, to care. He can't have that. He can't stand and just watch it implode. He can't just watch humanity destroy itself. His righteousness won't let him do that. But it's at the point where he has to step in. We kind of talked about this a bit ago. What kind of pushback did Jesus get from the people when he tried to redeem? So when Jesus comes, the Redeemer, the salvation, what kind of pushback did he get from the people he's trying to redeem? Yeah. Ultimately, the cross, death. He got the most of the pushback from the leaders, the ones that are supposed to be leading the people to God, the ones that are supposed to be the ones that knew the word better than anybody else. That's where he got most of the pushback. And we've seen it as we studied the life of Jesus and stuff that throughout his ministry, we got to kill this guy. He's in the way. That's the only thing that's their only solution to their problem. That's how much pushback. They hounded him. Almost every story he tells, they're hounding him, about something, about working on the Sabbath or healing somebody, touching somebody they shouldn't touch, eating with the sinners and the taxpayers and the prostitutes, and they're hounding him every step. That's quite a ministry with them hounding him every step of the way. But yeah, and ultimately, it's the cross. Mm-hmm. They didn't look too hard at all. Right. No, they didn't care or did not want to find the truth. You're right. They're taking the Mishnah, the Gemara, the commentary on the word, the commentary on the commentary, which it creates your own set of rules. And then a lot of things work that way. What the rules really are, or what God really said is one thing, but then how do you work around it? And sometimes, because that's how we've always done it, becomes the law, and it's not necessarily it's not what's right. It might have been fine, but it might not be. Might not be the only way things can be done. So. Right. They've lost the why with the roast in the pan. That's just different size roast, different size pan. Yeah, they lost the why, and it just became that's what's always been done. So, yeah, traditions can become laws really easy. So what empowers his mission? It's his righteousness. His righteousness is what really powers this whole thing. God, I've kind of said that twice, but basically that's it. There's nothing else more than his righteousness. He's not righteous if he just lets the world just, if the whole world goes to hell, he's not righteous. You know, he's righteous to himself, and that's all it is. And so his righteousness has to have a path to redemption, a path to be with him. Verse 17, he put on righteousness as a breastplate and a helmet of salvation on his head. He put on garments of vengeance for clothing and wrapped himself in zeal as a cloak. According to their deeds, so will he repay. According to their deeds, so he will repay. Wrath to his adversaries, repayment to his enemies. To the coastlands he will render repayment. What armor does the Redeemer wear? God's going to send a Redeemer. It's going to be God himself. What kind of armor is he going to wear? There's 4 things in here that he wears. Pretty much defenseless? Yeah. Well, yeah. I get it. It is defensive, isn't it? Yeah. Helmet. That's a good point. It doesn't talk about his sword, does it? Doesn't talk about any weapons. Clive? Yep, Ephesians 6. It's very close. It's almost, some of these are very, very close. I got a slide for that too, but yeah. So how would this work in a physical battle? A physical battle distinguished by deeds and conquest and blood. Like Chuck says, he's all defensive. He's got a breastplate. He's got a helmet. But his breastplate is righteousness. His helmet is salvation. He's got garments of vengeance for clothing. He wraps himself in zeal as a cloak. Will zeal keep you warm? Will it keep the rain off you? Keep the blood splatters off you? No. Yeah, keep you moving. That's exactly what it does. Helmet of salvation. What will that block in a fight? In a physical fight, what will a helmet of salvation block? Will it take arrows, swords, lances? Breastplate of righteousness. How thick is that? Not in a physical fight, not too much. If you back up and it talks about he who departs from evil makes himself prey. It would look like prey in this instance, wouldn't he? For the evil, the Redeemer looked like prey. He's not wearing armor. He's not carrying weapons because they can't see it. And that's really where it's at. They can't see it, but it's there. It's something more powerful than armor, more powerful than weapons. More than deeds, more than conquest, more than blood. Spell check said conquest was spelled wrong. I put it in twice. I got it corrected. I don't know why I thought it was wrong, but apparently that wasn't in the Microsoft Word's dictionary. Where have we seen similar armor? And Clive already pointed out, Ephesians 6. Let's see if I can pull that up. Ephesians 6, 14 through 18. Stand therefore, having fastened on the belt of truth, and having put on the breastplate of righteousness, and as shoes for your feet, having put on the readiness given by the gospel of peace. In all circumstances, take up the shield of faith, with which you can extinguish all the flaming darts of the evil one, and take the helmet of salvation, the sword of the Spirit, which is the word of God, praying at all times in the Spirit, with all prayers and supplication. There's the prayers that the people needed to intercede. No man would step up and pray for the nation because they weren't wearing this. So we talked a little bit about the breastplate, helmet of salvation, wrapping himself in zeal. Does the Christian's armor include the garments of vengeance? No. What would you do with that? I mean, if you had that, I mean, would the world be a different place? Some garments of vengeance? God said, "Vengeance is mine." That's why we don't have the garments of vengeance. That's got to be it, because you'd whip that out way too early sometimes. There are people who wear the garments of vengeance. You don't want to be around now. But yeah, that's included in this area here. Garments of vengeance. Vengeance is mine, is God's words exactly. According to their deeds, so he will repay. Wrath to his adversaries, repayment to his enemies. To the coastlands he will render repayment. How will the adversaries of God's people be treated by the Redeemer? He's going to repay them how? According to their deeds. According to their deeds. If you oppressed God's people in some way, you would expect to be repaid in a similar way. You would be oppressed at that same level. Imprisoned, you might be imprisoned in some form or fashion. Death wouldn't be out of the question for those who killed God's people. Put blockage in some way, you'd be repaid right there. I just kind of saw it. I hadn't seen it before, but that repay, repayment, repayment. I mean, the word's in there 3 times in this one verse. Redemption itself has a monetary value to it, making something worth more. And that's really what redemption is. You look at I use this example a lot of times, but a cat food coupon on the back, it says this coupon's worth 1/10 of a cent. That's all it's worth. You know, it's paper, but it's worth 1/10 of a cent. For whatever reason, they put on a lot of coupons. But you take it to the store and it's worth, 50 cents, $1, whatever. The coupon becomes worth more. It ain't worth a whole lot, but it's still worth more. And that's with us. The redemption makes us go from worthless to worthy. And that repaying is part of that redemption process for those who got away. So more is proportion to their deeds, more oppression, more vengeance. I guess that's about the best way I can look at it. And like I said, those who put Christ on the cross, they'd expect similar vengeance. You know, and we know that even the end of the Jewish religion happens. It's a spiritual end. That's what it is, just a spiritual end. But there has to be a transition. So who are the coastlands? Some versions say islands. It's going to repay to the coastlands. I understand the adversaries. I understand the enemies. Who are the coastlands? The islands. That's probably the nations, the Gentiles, the outsiders that got in the way of God's people. Especially when you're looking at Old Testament stuff, which is where we're at. But those who would attack God's people, those who would, quite honestly, the ones that God used, like the Assyrians. He brings them in, uses them for a purpose with the captivity and stuff, but then he wipes them out too. The coastlands are really that. They're islands, they're nations. They're not physically islands, and not quite honestly, they're not even typically coastlands. Aren't the Philistines, that's coastland, right? I mean, you see Philistines all the way through. Yeah. Syria, Lebanon. Yeah. Persia. Yeah. That's good. Yeah. Southern part doesn't, yeah. But you're right, northern part's got some. It's also a way to, if you can maintain the coastland, you can handle the economy. You can, any kind of import, export, it's got to go through there. So that's another way just to keep them down, really. So that coastlands, it's you can see, I guess, the physical part of that, but at the same time, it's just symbolic of the nations, the Gentiles, the outsiders that worked against them. Verse 19, so they shall fear the name of the Lord from the west, and his glory from the rising of the sun. For he will come like a rushing stream, which the wind of the Lord drives. That's pretty poetic right there. They shall fear the name of the Lord from the west, his glory from the rising of the sun. He will come like a rushing stream with the wind, which the wind of the storm drives. Do I have no comment on that? I guess I had no. Anybody else got a comment on this one? Other than it's poetic? The sun rises in the east. The sun comes up over here every morning, and you get up early enough. I mean, it's still dark that direction, and it filters that way. But they're going to fear him still in the darkness. You know, as the light comes, and we're actually in the next chapter, you see the light being Christ, which we all know. But the west is still dark. Comes like a rushing stream. Anybody ever been in a flash flood or something? We kind of laugh. I know they have flash flood warnings here, but I kind of laugh because it just means that there's going to be water on the streets is all it really means. You know, it ain't going nowhere. You ever been anywhere that's got a flash flood? Clive, you've lived in a mountainous area. Is it crazy or what? I mean, as stuff just comes rushing through, it's crazy. It's real. It's real. Ten feet of water just comes down suddenly and wipes out everything in its path. Rivers where there were no rivers before. I know you had pictures from that hurricane that went through there, that kind of thing. Yeah. Chuck? Yeah, the Grand Canyon got covered by water. And you look from the top, that water's not much down there. But I know in different places it is a lot. And at times it's probably a whole lot. Well, I'm sure of that. Yeah, you go whitewater rafting, you'll know.
You have slow motion flows here. When you come from the foothills of the mountains, a flash flood, we had flash flood in the eastern panhandle. When the water receded, just what you said, that rivers changed their course. And we had cattle stuck in power and phone lines. That's 35 to 50 feet above the ground level.
It's great cattle, 35 to 50 feet.
Cattle.
Yeah, that's deep water to get there.
Yeah, and at that point, it's going where it wants to go.
It goes where it wants to go. Yeah, like I said, it carves its way. We saw that with was it Hurricane Helene up in the Smokies, North Carolina and stuff, where it just wiped out whole sides of mountains, towns that disappeared as the water went through there. Texas, was it last year, when it rained hard enough that it wiped out the whole Bible camp and some of those places. And that's the kind of rushing stream. I don't know, like I say, here our flooding's different because they ain't got no gravity to it. And it's got nothing that drives it. It just accumulates. But if it's driven by the wind, if it's driven by more water behind it, driven by gravity, it'll rush through. I was in Arizona one year. I don't know, way down in the south part. I can't even come up with the name of that town. Anyways, you go to cross, they got the highway, but then you come to a arroyo. Is that the right word? Anybody ever been out there? It's a big ditch. You're in a desert, but there's a ditch, and they tell you, and it's got warnings. This, beware of flash floods. And it's like, dude, it's the desert. What do you mean? But apparently when it rains, it goes to this thing, and it's a trough that it just, but it'll wipe you out if you're not. You got to treat it like a railroad track at that point. But the Lord will come in like this. He's going to come in like the rising sun. He's going to come in like a rushing stream. Get out of the way. He's going to wipe out the unrighteousness. Verse 20, and a Redeemer will come to Zion, and to those in Jacob who turn from transgression, declares the Lord. The word redeem, that word right there, in Hebrew is like gawal. I don't speak Hebrew, so it's probably way off. It means kinsman redeemer. You see a kinsman redeemer in Ruth 4. It was a relative, but they were there to redeem Ruth. Is that right? Redeem Ruth. But it was a relative that came in to step in. But that's what this word redeemer really is that same word. So it's a relative that's going to have to step in to save the Jewish nation. And so we all know, I mean, Jesus is relative, right? He's got the bloodline to it. But he's God. He's the Redeemer that no man could be. He's all in that. Who in the Jewish nation, when the Redeemer comes to the Jewish nation, who will he come to? Will he come to everyone? Will he redeem everyone? Who will be redeemed? Those who choose, those who turn from their transgressions. They have to recognize and change. Here we got that Jacob thing. Zion being all the Jewish nation. Jacob, the bloodline Jews. Typically Israel, when it's used, becomes the spiritual Jews, the one God's people spiritually versus God's people just of a bloodline. So they're going to have to repent. They're going to have to change. There will always be a seed, a remnant, holding faithfully to God's word, passing it on from one generation to the next. This promise has been fulfilled in the Christ who received the words from the Father and the gospel and the true church of Christ. That's from Homer Haley. They're decent words. Verse 21 to finish off this chapter. And as for me, this is my covenant with them, says the Lord. Up to this point, it's all been Isaiah speaking. As for me, this is my covenant with them, says the Lord. My spirit that is upon you, and my words that I have put in your mouth, shall not depart from out of your mouth, or out of the mouth of your offspring, or out of the mouth of your children's offspring, says the Lord, from this time forth and forevermore. So this is God speaking directly. What's a covenant? We use that word. I like to use big words. I like to know what big words mean. Too much engineering school and they'll throw stuff at you and you might not figure out what that really meant till 20 years later. And that's one of my favorite things in reading too, is finding new words and trying to break them into the roots and stuff of what they really mean. What's a covenant? It's a promise, it's an agreement. It's, I promise to do this if you promise to do that. Does that sound good? Yeah, it's a contract, you know. You go to buy a house, I promise to give you this much money, you promise to give me the deed. The covenant of marriage, I promise this, and she promises this. You know, it's a contract with two promises at least in there. So what does God promise in this covenant? There's this new covenant. Yeah, that's long ago he put that. Through your seed, all mankind will be blessed. And this is where it culminates. This is time for the blessing. So he's already put that plan in place. He comes to the point that he's going to put that blessing on there. He's going to put the Spirit on. That's his end of the covenant. He's going to put the Spirit on them. He's going to put his words in the mouths of the people. The rank and file people lead this. Yeah. You're right. In the old way, the rank and file people didn't really understand. They depended on the priest. They depended on the leadership. Here, we all have that role as a priest. Yeah. And it gets rid of the temple. It gets rid of that guy between us and God. So, and that's it. It puts the words in. God expects us to use his words, to spread the gospel. It's there to spread. it's going to be through our children, and out of our children's children. It's how it goes from, how did it get from Jerusalem to here? By word of mouth. You got a written Bible at some point. Brent?
One thing that's interesting there, with that promise, it was to Abraham, who was before Jacob. So when he said all your offspring, it meant the Jews and the Gentiles as they were,
That's a good point.
separated later.
Yeah, good point. Because it started with Abraham, all the offspring, the Jews and the Gentiles. Yeah, they get collected to get back together through the church. Have the ability to get back together with the church. And he expects us to do that, and he expects us to share that. Covenant's glass says forevermore. I'm only going to 2 verses of chapter 60 because it follows up with this really. Chapter 60, verse 1 and 2, Arise, shine, for your light has come, and the glory of the Lord has risen upon you. For behold, darkness shall cover the earth, and thick darkness the peoples. But the Lord will rise upon you, and his glory will be seen upon you. What darkness covers the earth? Sin. It's the sin of the people. That's the darkness that covers the earth. That's why he came. How dark does it get before the light comes? As dark as it can. It came at the perfect time because it was dark. Romans 2:23-24 says, You who boast in the law dishonor God by breaking the law. For as it is written, the name of God is blasphemed among the Gentiles because of you. That's how bad it got. That the Gentiles blasphemed God because God's people were worthless. Everybody saw it. You can be an example now. The example was right there, and everybody saw it and blasphemed God because what they saw. Your light has come. We know it's Christ, right? John 1:1-5. In the beginning was the Word was with God, the Word was God. It's in the beginning with God. All things were made through him, and without him not anything made that was made. In him was life, and the life was the light of men. The light shines in the darkness cannot overcome it. This is the light that he's referring to. The word used here is a rock, where it says risen. And like we talked about dawn earlier, this is it. The light rises upon you. The light will rise upon you. Twice it says that. It's like the sunrise coming upon you. It comes right out of the darkness, and it just envelops everything. We don't even think about daylight once it's daylight. It's everywhere, In the morning, it's pretty profound, but the rest of the day, it's just light. Where have we seen the glory of the Lord shine and lead his people? And the glory of the Lord has risen upon you. Where have we seen the glory of the Lord? That's what he used to lead his people in the desert, out of Egypt, on the way to the promised land. That was the glory of the Lord. There's a word, there's a word that's used sometimes called Shekinah. Shekinah. It's not in the Bible, but it's more like, say, the Mishnah and the Gemara. It's used in there to represent the glory of the Lord. It's a visible light that the glory of the Lord has. So this is still poetic, but that glory of the light shines like the sun. It rises, it envelops everything, it pushes out the darkness. The responsibility of the church: arise, shine, let the glory be seen. That's the responsibility of the church, to make it go from generation to generation to generation. Arise, shine, let the glory be seen. In verse 3, the nations shall come to your light, and the kings to the brightness of your rising. Instead of the nations despising God, we should be inviting. We should be there to bring those into the church. So, chapter 60 is about the church, and Chuck will pick that up next week. I said it earlier, but Paul is going to teach in the back, all set up for fellowship. He's going to teach in the back, so we'll just have our regular class if that's what you want to teach. It's Friends and Family Week, but anyways.
Sing